Hello everybody, welcome to Redneck Archaeology. We got a good one for you today. It's going to get kind of boring looking at these 5 specimens here, but bear with me for a few and we will let the evidence speak for itself. I'm going to try and make this short and painless. Of course, I said that about my last video back in December. It ended up being about a 40-minute rant regarding archaeologists and their predisposition regarding this type of evidence. Faces on stone. I mean, they know it doesn't exist, so I have never met any of them that gave us, like an ounce worth of scientific objectivity as far as this type of evidence is concerned. But I've been at this for a while, not as long as there's been people involved in their own research regarding this evidence, and those who have actually held it in their own hands, they know what it is. I mean, there's no mistaking what it is. But you have no shot at convincing archaeologists. I mean, I've done it over and over, and it's always the same thing. It's just they complacently reject it. It's naturally occurring, or they will go to their number 2 end all be all of archaeological skepticism, which is pareidolia. I mean, you know what that is? It's that's like a Jesus Christ on a tortilla chip. It's not the same thing. But in fact, if you read the definition of pareidolia and you omit the word phenomenon, it reads a lot like the definition for imagination. Okay, and of course we know that never ever once has it ever been proven that these ancient people had any imagination whatsoever, right? But anyway, here's the deal. The basics are this, and I've tried to explain this many times. What they had the ability to do was shallow etching because it was hard stone that they used, okay? Consider how our vision works. It is basically just light reflecting off of a given surface or surfaces, right? And that's basically how it works. But then how is it that we are able to see, say, contours and relief on these surfaces? How do we perceive that? How are we able to perceive that? Well, of course, it's because of the shading, okay? Or the lack of light that is, reflecting. And, I know that's pretty complex, the way that works with the human vision and all. And I've been fighting a problem with this for a long time, and it's like you simply cannot relay through 2-dimensional documentation, including photographs, what only the retinas can ascertain, and in short order. And of course I got that from Charles C. Abbott, and that came from like a 1911 publication, 10 Years of Digging. And he was studying these ELS, which is where my work began, was studying these, and I'll straight up tell you they are tools, but they are not understood or recognized by archaeology. Although some of the things are in their collections, but they're only there because of, the location where they found them, or context, and the lithic source. But as I said, it is by shading that we are able to see relief and contours. And, imagine a monochromatic, being 1 color surface. It's easier that way for me. I mean, if you scratch a line in that and the light is behind you shining directly on it, it's all reflecting back, you won't see it. You would not know it was there unless the lighting was overhead or, at an angle to provide that shading. Now, these ancient Americans, they knew this. I mean, they did this for thousands of years, right? So they understood how that worked. And what they were able to do is they used shading the same way that we'd use like charcoal or ink. And that, is how they intended these things to be viewed. Because like I said, they only had the ability really for kind of shallow etching because it was pretty hard stone, and they had to use even harder stone to do that with. I mean, how long have we known about gravers, and yet it's still pretty much speculation as to what they were doing with them. But this stuff will reveal a secret once it is acknowledged that is going to change a lot. It is going to change the entire premise that North American archaeology is based upon. So just understand that is just it. I mean, it's you can't look at this stuff and expect to see it like you see something that's printed or drawn or anything else. It is entirely dependent upon direction of light and shading. That's what they had. That's what they worked with. And in fact, they were masters at this, and indeed created technology of application. Because, this stuff is called portable rock art for a reason. It's got to be portable, okay? You can't be toting around a whole bunch of stone, So most of this is on very small stones. These things here, they're, maybe an inch and a quarter, the biggest one. So what they did was they developed a technology, which of course we wouldn't understand or have never seen because we've never had to work with just simply shading, okay? But if you're familiar with lenticular printing, it's kind of that accordion shape where you have half the surface area is facing to the right at a 45-degree angle, and half of it is facing to the left at a 45-degree angle. And it's called biconvex. That's how you have like a billboard sign that actually has two advertisements. One you see from left, one you see from the right, or if you cross left to right, you get to see both of them. Okay? It's similar to that, but a lot more complex because, it doesn't involve printing or ink. It still involves shading. Okay? So it's going to involve direction of light, direction of view. It's going to also involve angles of the surface. And if you're familiar with what has been termed incised stone, you see all these geometrical line patterns. They're like a crosshatch. I believe that actually represents these angles of light and view. Often you'll see like an X or X's, across the entire surface, just a bunch of these crosshatches. And it can be, 2 lines crossing or 3 lines crossing. And, I have witnessed multiple points of light and viewing and shading upon these. I've seen up to 6 separate angles of view, and each different angle is going to present you with something different. See, if I scratch a line in stone and that line goes vertical between me and the light source, it's going to disappear. You'll never see it because there is no shading. Now on a horizontal line, if that's a stair-stepped type of line, well, there's only going to be shading on that line from one direction. And that's part of how this works. But that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna show you what few of us actually know about this. It is rather amazing, I think, but we'll give her a shot. We'll let you guys take a look at this in the way that, honestly, I'm quite certain it was the way they intended for you to view this. And I'm going to tell you, Native American legend has it that some of these stones told stories, if one only knows how to read them, you know. And I thought, well, if they can tell stories, surely, as evidence, it can definitely speak for itself. So we're going to, give me a sec here to get all set up on this. We'll go over this real quick before we let it do its own thing here. I can get the lighting all right. There we go. Now, something I notice about this stuff is any like facet, section, anything that's, you know, like got a border on these things, it's going to have facial features within it. It's going to have an eyes, nose, mouth. And when you see this stuff, it's, you know, it's not just random like pareidolia. It's not random stuff. We're talking about pattern recognition. Let's say right here, this guy, and this pointer, even archaeologists can see. See, it's like a bifaced projectile point. They'll be able to see that. Okay, so we got eyes here, we got a nose, and a mouth. That's all in relief. That's not just colors on the rock or something. There, this stuff is in relief. See this face over here? It's got that little mouth right there. It's scratched in. It's got a nose. It's got eyes. And, of course, a lot of the subject matter, you know, we're not going to be familiar with. So, you know, who knows what they're trying to get at. But I can tell you that the art form itself is based on facial imagery. And it's both man and animal. And I'm not familiar with all the animals from back then. So I have kind of a hard time with some of those. But the human facial, and well, you'll see eyes, nose, and all that. But it's all there. But it's in how one views it. Well, I believe this is what they had in mind. So we'll go ahead and let it speak for itself. Watch closely. Now you begin to see things come into view in certain areas. See how this face is changed up here. Now we got a left-facing profile here. Just keep watching, and see there's an animal facing to the right there. And often you'll see things like a pair of eyes, okay? But that pair of eyes will have a face facing forward. It'll have a left-facing profile. It'll be one of the eyes for the left-facing profile. The other eye will be for the right-facing profile, and also both eyes for the forward-facing entity. So, let's continue. And, you know, considering that it's one point of light, okay, look, hang on, we've got a face right here, shows up. And we got a couple up here in here. Well, we got one down here. And it just takes, you know, a few minutes to kind of grasp this stuff. Okay, there's another face. See that profile facing that way. You got one showing up here, right there, at the top, right. Oh, let me move. There we go. And as we continue on our rotation, I mean, these things just pop out of nowhere. These things morph. I mean, you're not seeing the faces we've seen before as the angle changes. You don't see them upside down or anything like that. It just becomes something else. So basically, they've made it possible to put completely separate sets of scenery on the same surface. Portable rock art. The technology was developed out of need for it. That's what man does, right? Are you seeing the faces? I mean, over here now, we got one face there. We got a face here. We got some kind of critter here, probably. And see, up here, these tiny little facets. See, at the very edge, up at the top, and they're usually there. It looks like a stair-stepped, you know, edge or something. But each facet will typically have its own set of eyes. Now you have to take into account the patination process of stone, and it's different on different types of stone. But that's another point, is that I can show you this same type of imagery on several different types of stone. Now they all patinate differently, the erosion process, whatever. And so you learn to, with each type of stone, you kind of learn, what you're looking at as you do. And perception does have to develop in this stuff before you can really, really see it and know what you're really looking at. No, it's not fossilized invertebrates or anything like that. It's not just artwork. See, that's it. Right here, as I said, they say that these things tell stories. Well, this stuff actually serves many different purposes, I'm sure. It's not just, but in this case, I believe it is actual communication. Okay? If it tells a story, it's communication. They just used visual imagery, and, they knew what it meant. It'll take us a bit of time, but the first thing we have to do is acknowledge that it is what it is. Okay? It's not just a subject to ridicule, and that's half the reason no archaeologists look at it, because it's ridicule among colleagues. It's a joke to them, and it's just part of the curriculum, and that's how they treat it. They can't treat it with objectivity that it deserves. Okay, now you see how the face has changed here. I don't know how far through the rotation we are, but how many? Look at the one in the middle. These weren't there before. See the face on the left. See how this imagery keeps changing, but it is there, and it is in relief. This isn't. It's not natural occurrence, especially when it appears just like this on several different types of stone. I'm a flint knapper and a stone chipper, and I know you can create a lot of, likenesses without any intent, but, typically I don't embellish on it, and gouge the eyes out and all that real deeply, or scratch the mouth in, or whatever it takes, or nostrils. But you see all these images. It's just amazing what they were able to do. Now, I'll have to apologize if you get the story wrong on this stone, because, hey, we may be looking at the thing backwards. I don't know. I have no idea. But isn't that cool? You see that? That stuff just... Okay, see, up here we have the left-facing profile right here. Watch that thing morph. And just boom, right there at that one angle. Bam. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Now it's facing forward. It's just amazing what they were able to do with the principles of light and shading, I haven't figured it all out yet. It's going to take some time, sure be nice to have some help, but, the guys wearing lab coats. See, that's the thing with archaeologists, man. They're so strict about, how the dating and all this is done. And that is their only concern. They're really only concerned with that date. Everybody's out there. It's a big race. Everybody wants to, push it. They've been chipping away for the last couple decades at the whole premise that the theories that everything's based upon, and yet they won't let them go. And, realize that there were some serious missteps at the onset. In its infancy, there were mistakes made. This stuff, I've been walking on it since I took my first steps. And, how would anybody know? It has been hidden right in front of us, right in plain sight the whole time. And there's some people that have, just noticed it. And those who do, they'll hold it in their own hands, they'll look at it, and it's like, bam, it hooks everybody, man. They're all out there trying to just get the quote-unquote scientist to take a look at this stuff, because it's going to tell us a lot more about these ancient people. I for one, remember why humanity deemed it important to learn about ancient people. It was indeed so that we may learn from them. You know, when you're out there just chasing a date, we're not learning much. Oh yeah, man came to North America. They still, it's ridiculous. The oldest known stone tool in North America, 18,000 BP. Are you kidding me? That's because none of these other things they recognize as tools. And I can show you probably one of the main tools I was investigating is probably like the most important tool there was to prehistory. Prior to the Clovis point, which, gets so much attention. But there was a time when they didn't even have the ability to pressure flake. They didn't even know what that was, These guys were grinding and re-breaking to get a sharp edge, But we don't recognize that because, it wasn't in the books. That's not what they taught us. So, that's pretty much the attitude. I mean, I don't have a framed parchment gracing the wall over my desk or anything either. But I can tell you those things aren't really suitable replacement for common sense. They really aren't. I mean, you still got to apply common sense here. Okay? What's common sense telling you? Can you hear these things? Is the evidence speaking to you? Now, of course, archaeology, like I said, they're going to present their same old speculative arguments, and it's worked for me. I mean, hey, natural occurrence. That's kind of like saying, well, anything can happen. Well, indeed it can, but repeatedly, over and over on multiple stones. Hey, if Paleolithic man didn't do it, then maybe geologists got something to explain here, right? Because this just isn't, this isn't just random chance occurrence. Okay? I mean, this is really, this is some talent. And, of course, ultimately what we may learn from, these ancient people is that, hey, what was true then is also true now, and that would be that humanity as a whole is merely the sum of its individuals, okay? So I'm telling you, not all of these guys were artists and had talent, so some of the stuff is a little sketchy, but, but neither is it, stick figures on a cave wall. This is portable rock art. This is communication. This was entertainment. This was all sorts of things, replace things that we have, media, guitars, radio, all that stuff. This is what they had, okay? And they spent a lot of time on it, I can tell you that right now. And there is a lot of it. And that's just it. I mean, I learned that looking at the stone tools, man. When it comes to the numbers, it is mind-boggling. It tells a whole different story than what we've gotten so far. But as you can see, man, there it is. Look at all that. Look at all that, man. That's just so cool. So I mean, we've got to get back to, I mean, a lot of science can be done just through mere observation. If you can't believe your own eyes, then, maybe you ought to pitch out these. And commitment to theory is one thing, but to have it so intertwined with your own belief system, hey, it's called theoretical science for a reason, right? I mean, what does the word theory mean to you? To me, it kind of says, you always got to keep one eye open, at least, for, alternate possibilities. And, investigate each one thoroughly. They have never looked into this. None of them will hold it in their own hands for fear of, what their colleagues are going to, rib them about that, But, I mean, there it is. There it is. Please post your comments. I'd like to know what you think. I mean, I'm hoping you guys are seeing this stuff I mean, I know, like I said, perception has to develop, but I think this stuff here, even without having seen this or understanding it before, you should be able to see these faces. I mean, just clear as a bell. And like I said, it's not just some random pattern of colors or anything. These things are etched. They are in relief perfectly, you know. There's no confusing in my mind about, you know, what's what here. This is artifact, period. This is artifact. And until we acknowledge it, the science of human origins, I mean, it's basically meeting dead ends. It's been rendered ineffective because they are not looking at this avenue. And in fact, this artwork, like I said, this stuff is communication. This will tell us more than anything else, you know, any of the lithics or any of that stuff they're chasing. This will tell us more about our, you know, our past than anything else. So, like I said, I mean, I really don't think there's anything more. And here's another thing. This is not just about North American, you know, archaeology, because there are themes and motifs within this that I can show you on the other side of the globe that are repeated over there. Okay, so this does have global implications as well. And we will never get it right missing a piece of it like this. And, you know, sure, nobody's real hip on rewriting all the books or whatever, but would you rather, you know the truth or be right, you know? To me, it's all about truth and the knowledge gained. So there we are. Hope you guys dig it, and tell your friends, share this. I mean, this needs to be known. And like I said, I was resigned to the fact that there was no quantity or quality of evidence that was going to make a difference with archaeologists. Like I said, you can't get an ounce of scientific objectivity once you mention that. Their objectivity is right out the window. They won't consider this seriously, period. They haven't to this point. I mean, this stuff here, what do you think? I mean, it looks pretty indisputable, but I know in archaeology, there is no such thing as indisputable, period. I mean, but what they dispute it with will be pure speculation, as it always has, and it's sold as scientific knowledge. Just because they don't understand it, recognize it, you know, wasn't in the books, you know, they can write it off that easily, complacently. Oh, a natural occurrence. That must be because we don't know about it. Well, if this is a natural occurrence, then you got something else to explain. How about that? So that's about it. I hope you guys dig it, because, man, I promise you I'll do some more videos and share some more information about this, because it's really, I mean, this thing has consumed me for quite a while now, but it's really fascinating, and I've got great collaborators out there, you know, all over the globe, man. There are people that are just into this stuff, and they're looking for other people, you know. And of course the community isn't quite organized as of yet. No one really, I don't think, really realize how invaluable that collaboration is. You know, everybody seems to have their own angles and all, but here's mine. Hope you dig it. And that's it. You know, we'll say the ball's in archaeology's court at this point. And you know, I only have really one question for them. I butted heads with them over and over, you know, but I have one question. That would be, crow. Do you want extra crispy or original recipe with that? Talk to you later. Thanks, guys. Bye.